begin. My name is Tina Gabrielson, and I'm a professor of political science at the University of Wyoming. I teach courses in political philosophy and so sometimes American political thought. And I've twice been a state We the People judge. This is my first time to serve at the national level, and it's been a great experience so far. I'm definitely looking forward to your presentation today. And with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Tandy.
Hi, my name is Tandy McConnell. For about 20 years, I was a professor of history at Columbia College in Columbia, South Carolina, not too far from where you guys live. Then about 3 years ago, I decided to do something very, trying to find something harder to do, so I began teaching 8th graders in Orangeburg. I'll try to remember back to when you were in the 8th grade. How nice were you to your teachers then? Yeah.
I tried my best.
I did as well.
But I'm delighted to be here with you.
So I'm Barry Anderson. I'm an Associate Justice on Minnesota Supreme Court. I'm actually the Senior Justice on the court, which just means I've been hanging around a long time. I've had significant connections with this program, spent several years as an assistant coach, bringing a team from Hutchinson, Minnesota to the national competition. And then for the last 20 years or so, in a variety of opportunities to serve as a judge at the national competition. This is my idea of a good time in April and May is to have the opportunity to visit with the next generation of leaders about some of the issues that surround the founding of the Republic. And I'm really very much looking forward to it. I think that's enough of an introduction. If you'd be so kind as to introduce your team and your coaches, I would appreciate it.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Kennedy Smith. Hi, I'm Bianca Gowanke.
And I'm Kathleen Boyle.
And we're from the Academy for Arts and Technology in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And our coach is Mr. Robert DeServo.
Well, very good. We are here to discuss Unit 1, what are the philosophical and historical foundations of the American political system? And the question that we're going to be discussing today is number 3. Aristotle asserts in politics that it is not the form of government ruled by the one, the few, or the many that matters most, but rather the ends of government that are most important. Where in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution did the framers set forth the ends of government? How did the framers differ, if at all, about how the ends of government should be prioritized? And finally, which of the ends of government set forth in the Declaration and Constitution appear to have the highest priority today? You're ready to begin? We are ready to listen.
John Adams stated, "The happiness of society is the end of government." The framers implied the ends of government were where government power ends and the freedoms of individual rights begin. The Declaration of Independence and the Constitution neglect to explicitly state the ends established by the founders, therefore creating debate regarding the powers possessed. The ends of government lie within external security, internal order, justice, general welfare, and freedom.
The framers instituted the ends through the limitations of the branches. The Constitution enumerates the powers of the legislative, executive, and judicial branches within Article 1, 2, and 3. The ends of the branches are checked through oversight and regulation. As Madison stated, ambition must be made to counteract ambition. The Bill of Rights instituted the freedoms of individuals' rights, though Federalist 84 argued this would limit the rights citizens possessed, expanding the ends of government.
Differences of opinion in regards to the ends established, originally rooted in interpretations of philosophical perspectives, in stark contrast between Federalists and Anti-Federalists. From Hobbes and Locke to Rousseau and Montesquieu, the founders utilized Enlightenment ideals in the conception of the U.S. government. Federalists prioritized establishing the ends through regulation of branch powers, whilst Anti-Federalists prioritized the instillment of individuals' freedoms.
In Federalist 51, Madison claimed, "If angels were to govern men, neither external nor internal controls on the government would be necessary." Such sentiments prioritize the ends of government within the separation of powers, checks and balances, rule of law, and loose interpretation of the Constitution. As described by Adams in Federalist 87, America is a government of laws, not of men. Federalists Hamilton and Madison explained during the Constitution debate the primary purpose of federalism and limits on national power were to better protect individual liberty.
Anti-Federalists focus their prioritization of such ends within the strict interpretation of the law, transparency of officials, and Bill of Rights. Patrick Henry stated, "The liberties of the people never were, nor ever will be, secure when the transaction of their rulers may be concealed from them." Their partisans' perspective suggested the ends established were to be enforced as they were written, with clarity of action and roles of officials. Additionally, the Anti-Federalists prefaced the importance of individual liberties established. Jefferson insisted a Bill of Rights is what the people are entitled to against every government, and what no just government should refuse or rest on inference.
Additionally, the framers disagreed on the limitations placed upon the state and federal power. Federalists prioritized centrist values supporting a strong national government, in contrast to anti-federalist views. The difference of prioritization creates a disproportionate realm of power and lacks the check of federalism within our government. In the 21st century, the lack of institutionalized ends within the Declaration of Independence and Constitution has the highest priority in need of change and development.
Jefferson's advice, which the founders did not follow, suggested we should provide in our Constitution for its revision at stated periods. Each generation should have the solemn opportunity to update and revise the Constitution every 19 or 20 years, thus allowing it to be handed on with periodical repairs from generation to generation till the end of time. The ends established lack the stability of American government, sustaining through the perpetual vibrations of anarchy and tyranny.
Federalists tend to suggest that great numbers of faction and diversity would avoid tyranny. However, partisanship prohibits such restraints. As the executive branch is continually not held accountable to the rule of law, the legislative members seemingly impossible to vote out, and our Supreme Court serving for life whilst becoming more partisan, it seems the ends of government are becoming less and less clear. Our government system today needs to prioritize reaffirming and reestablishing what the ends of government are and uphold.
All right, let's go back to Aristotle for our first follow-up question. Historians and political scientists speak of the progressive era of the last 100 years or so and point to some of the innovations that come out of that era, such as initiative, referendum, recall. I'm wondering what Aristotle would have thought about those reforms. Would he have approved or disapproved of them? Why or why not?
I think Aristotle would have approved of such reforms as it has enhanced the ends of government that we have. I think when answering the question at hand, Aristotle was correct in saying that it's the ends of government which help to establish our government and rule our people. So I think establishing those reforms such as referendum, he would support.
Definitely. I feel like reforms such as those definitely help to keep the checks and balances of the different branches in check. And in our form of democracy, Aristotle would approve of, because his form of democracy, which was a bad form of government as he believed, would be direct democracy. So with those checks from those reforms, I feel like he would definitely approve of those.
In agreement with both of my colleagues, Aristotle would be very fond of the form of government we have based on the federalist structure that our government possesses, having the different level of governments in order to best represent the people. When one form of government fails the people, another can step in to protect their rights. Aristotle did not have much, how would you put it? He did not feel very strongly for the direct democracy. He felt it was very flawed, as it is the quite opposite of a tyranny or authoritarian government, yet at the same time, it is placing all of the power in one unit. Whether or not it is just all the people or just one person, it is still not being divided with checks and balances to have a fail-safe method.
Tandy?
Let's go back. I wanted to come back to Aristotle again. It's hard to get away from him. He's so influential. He talked about the goal of government. The Greek word he used was eudaimonia, which we usually translate as the good life. Was he talking about good life being something an individual would have, or something that a community has? And I guess the same thing would be true for the framers of the Constitution. Should we be thinking about the good life as my individual right to do whatever I want, or what is going to benefit the entire community? And how would we apply that to current circumstances?
Aristotle definitely emphasized his viewpoints on the common good. And I feel like in terms of that, we should definitely be more focused on the safety of the common good rather than maybe personal vendettas or personal interests, since the common good can essentially be seen as it's at stake right now with the coronavirus. I feel, especially with the protests going on right now in New York against the coronavirus, saying that it's a false pandemic and it's not real and we shouldn't be worrying about it too much. I feel as though the safety of the common good is being put at risk with those individuals who want to get back to their normal life, as they say.
In agreement with my partner, I think Aristotle's intent with that was the common good, and I think that could also be seen in John Locke's philosophy of the social contract theory, where us as individuals, we give up some of our rights in order for the government to protect and safeguard our rights of life, liberty, and property. So I think that's the overall attitude that Aristotle had towards it, and I think that's the attitude our government needs to have towards handling policy as well, because as Bianca said, though individuals think that they should possess their own good life, they're actually not looking out for the common good of society, which the government should be upholding and are right now during the coronavirus, because they are safeguarding and instituting things such as stay at home, though some individuals are refuting that and trying to uphold their individual rights.
And what we can see globally is certain countries that don't enforce the common good and are more focused on individual liberties and freedoms. For example, Sweden has decided to enforce the idea of herd immunity rather than restrict each individual to their home and their life and their business. They've decided to go forth and just ignore quarantine recommendations from other countries and allow their citizens to continue their daily life. And as we can see by certain numbers, while it does fluctuate every now and then, it is having a negative impact on the majority of the people and will have repercussions later on in their economy. A lot of times when we do focus on the common good, it does not help in the long run if we discuss more, but I would be happy to move on to another question if we have the time.
Okay,
along with my partner, just to follow up really quick, when we talked with Washington Post writer Ilya Solman, he prefaced how when establishing our ends of government as a country, consent of the government and popular sovereignty was what helped instill the common good that we found in our society today.
Okay, I'll go ahead with a follow-up. For the founders, one of the ends of a federal republic is avoiding the most common faction, that between the rich and the poor. How effective has the U.S. Constitution been in this regard?
The U.S. government has not been as effective, and I think in that instance, the ends of government need to be furthered in the sense of going into the realm of private industries and those sectors, because I think that's a big realm where the ends of government are not upholding the vast socioeconomic inequality and gender inequality, which is creating this wage gap.
All right, very good. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I enjoyed the conversation. Just a couple of brief comments. I think it's defensible to take the position you took that Aristotle would approve of the progressive reforms that we discussed. I think it's also would be interesting to explore how those reforms, which are essentially a direct democracy form, fit with his skepticism about direct democracy. And I think that's also an issue here. I love the Madison quote about you know, we wouldn't need any protections if we were to only be governed by angels, and we aren't. Let's put it this way: our 200 and some odd year history indicates that most of the time we aren't. The human limitations are pretty clear, and Madison was pretty smart about that. Yeah, and I thought the Patrick Henry quote was interesting. Henry was great at giving speeches. He wasn't so great at getting things done, but that's a separate discussion for another time. I thought it was a good performance. I enjoyed it, and I wish you all well in the weeks and months and the years ahead. So, Tandy, the floor is yours.
Yeah, it was a great discussion, and I think you highlighted that it's complex, and sometimes there are trade-offs. So I was very glad to hear John Locke's version of the social contract. I mean, we have all sorts of ideas of social contract, and the Locke's basic idea that we do give up things that are very valuable. We give up some of our freedom to be able to live live in community with each other. And that's, our pursuit of happiness is not some Platonic ideal. It's an Aristotelian reality that it's going to cost us something. So I like that. I had not heard the thing about Sweden's pursuit of herd immunity at the cost of certainly Swedish lives. So that's very interesting. So good conversation, good discussion. I really enjoyed being here with you today. So best of luck to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I also really liked the Madison quotes. I'm a big Madison fan, so I appreciate that. That ambition must be made to counteract ambition. I like the separation of powers one too, right? That the interests of the person must be tied to the constitutional rights of the place. And so that's one that could have added a bit there without being too excessive on Madison. I thought generally your treatment of the diversity of views in the founding era was really a strong part of your presentation. And I also appreciated that you were a bit more heavily emphasizing the sort of challenges ahead in the conclusion to your presentation than we might expect. So that was a nice a surprise for me. And thanks for your responses to our questions too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.